Well, welcome to the DFL Before DNF podcast. My name's Josh. This is my friend Jesse Rich. This whole season 1 of the podcast is called Late Race Survival. And of the 100 milers that I've attempted, and you know this because you were my coach for a little bit, I've attempted 8 and I've finished 1. And I guess for the record, out of the gates, you weren't my coach on any of those. So that's none of those are your doing. And when I look back on those races, I think arguably, gout and rhabdo, those things have an impact, and those make sense to stop. But a lot of those, I look back on and I debate: could I have kept going? Could I not have kept going? Well, I'm an introvert, and I'm chatty when I'm out running a race because I just like to get to know people and I'm curious, but I haven't really dug in on how do the great finishers push through, the great 100-mile finishers, how do you push through those late race urges to stop? Because my assumption is that even the greats want to stop, but they keep going. And for me, obviously, by my 12% finish rate at 100 milers, my bent has been to stop. And I question myself now on a lot of them, but I'm just spending this time as I lead up to the Zion 100-miler in April. I'm just wanting to talk to people like you and say, how do you do it? And so before we dig into that, like that to me is like the pinnacle of this discussion. Before we get there, I want to get to know you. I want my audience to know why I'm picking your brain on this and get to know you as a person a little bit, get to know you as a runner, and then get to that piece on, late race survival. So Jesse Rich, welcome. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about the person of Jesse Rich.
Yeah, absolutely. So born and raised here in Salt Lake City, been here essentially my whole life, barely left. I am married with 2 kids, pretty busy. I got a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. Mm-hmm. Met my wife in France, in Marseille, and we did long distance for...
Were you just having a good time? You were just on vacation in France?
Just on vacation with my brother.
Nice.
And we were passing through Spain. His girlfriend at the time was from Spain, so we saw her hometown and wanted to go through France.
Wow.
And kind of deviated from my plan to continue with him to stay with her. It was pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
It's like big risk on her end and my end to just kind of alter our plans.
What year was that?
2016.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been a little while, and we did long distance for a year and a half. She was able to get a job here as a French immersion teacher. They helped her out with the visa.
Oh, cool.
Perfect entry point to the U.S.
Yeah.
So that was really nice.
I think that's one of the 3 like crazy random intersections. That's my life and your life, is that your wife teaches French immersion at one of my wife and my best friend's kids. They were like, oh yeah, talking about this woman. I'm like, gosh, could that be Jesse's? And you're like, oh my God, so she teaches. You and I also cross paths in France, which is, as a mutual friend of ours, Tommy Green said, hey, you need to meet Jesse. I was like, cool, I'll reach out to Jesse. You said you're going to be in France. I was like, well, I'll be in France. What are the chances we're both going to be in same place, same time? I gave you my itinerary, and we were both in Annecy for the same few days. And so the first time we ever chatted running, we walked through. It was a romantic walk through.
It was romantic,
Annecy together. And then my primary care doctor, I was showing him pictures of Annecy, and your face shows up in my pictures. I was like, oh, sorry, that's just a random friend I met there. He's like, is his last name Rich? It's like, yeah, that's, he's like, well, my son was best friends with his brother. So
I hadn't hear that connection.
Yeah.
Who's your doctor?
Dr. Gay.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay,
so
John.
So his son's John.
Yeah.
And he's been our doctor for like 13 years. He's like, that's my son. It was friends with his brother. He's got to be a Rich. He's got a Rich face. I was like, oh, well, my goodness, small world. Okay, so you meet your wife in France. You abandon your brother.
Yep, he keeps going without me.
Yeah, yep. And it paid off. You got married.
Yep.
And she came here. She's a French immersion teacher.
Yep.
Okay, so then go from there. Now tell us about your kids.
Yeah, so I got a boy and a girl, 3 and 2. I have made it work that I can work from home while raising them, nice. Which is pretty chaotic, as you can imagine. Nap time is kind of where I just like hone in and try to get my work done. And early mornings is when I train, or late at night.
Yeah.
So it's really chaotic, but obviously it's like a really fulfilling life and fun. But we actually just went to France and got back just barely. So it's fun. We try to go every year, and I have my education in nutrition. I have a master's in nutrition, and so I do that on my own. And then I coach mostly with a company called Evoke Endurance. So that's kind of my occupation, split between nutrition and coaching, which I really love. And a lot of times I end up working with one person on both things, right? So some people will hire me for coaching and nutrition.
Nice.
Because I really like to focus on running nutrition specifically.
Yeah.
So people are preparing for a race, and they'll hire me for the nutrition aspect too, to help them like get ready for race day and everything.
So tell me a little bit about the master's in nutrition. Like, what's your, it doesn't have to necessarily be like a elevator short version, but like tell me a little about your philosophy of nutrition.
Yeah. So I had a pretty unique education in that I went to a naturopathic medical school.
Okay.
So that's where people go to become doctors as a naturopath.
Oh.
So it's kind of more of a holistic nutrition program, as you could say it that way. I'm not a dietitian. It's more, we learned how to cook. We learn how to counsel. We get a lot of the science too.
Interesting.
We talk a lot about herbs and supplements, and it was a really cool, well-rounded program. And so my philosophy is, like kind of see the person as a whole holistically.
Yeah.
It is a lot of psychology. Nutrition is a lot of psychology in practice, right? Because people eat a certain way because of their habits and their environment.
Yeah.
And so changing the way people eat, I think you do have to address the psychology quite a bit.
So that school, you mentioned the counseling piece. Like, so you're as a coach, if you're doing the nutrition, like I don't know if therapist is the right word, but you're digging in.
We're digging in for sure. Yeah. A lot of time we're digging in. Yeah.
Wow.
And obviously I need to stay within my scope of practice
and expertise and license.
And there are sometimes like I eating disorders and things like that, I definitely refer out in certain situations where it's just out of my scope. But a lot of times we do get into the nitty gritty, why people are doing things. The why is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's the nutrition piece, and then you talked about it's called Evoke.
Evoke Endurance.
Evoke Endurance. Tell me a little bit about Evoke Endurance. When I first met you, you weren't there yet, and so now, what brought you there? What do you like about it? What are you doing there?
Yeah, I think I may have been with Uphill Athlete when we had met. Yeah. So essentially, Uphill Athlete, which is a pretty well-known like coaching company for mountaineering and running and everything, they had a split off. The two owners there.
Okay.
So I decided to leave with one of the owners to this different company, which most of the coaches did.
Okay.
To kind of reestablish. There were just some disagreements. So he started Evoke Endurance. Most of us went over there with them. So we're kind of starting from the ground up again.
Okay.
But I mean, I see his name's Scott Johnston, and he's kind of like a really good. And Steve House is amazing too. He was kind of the alpinist. Those two brought the company together.
Okay.
And I just continued with Scott because he had more of the coaching philosophy and experience coaching. Steve was more like the athlete. He was also a great coach. So it was a hard decision. It took me a while to decide, but then I went over to Evoke Endurance.
Okay.
And so we're all over the U.S. The coaches, there's about 20 of us.
Okay. Wow.
Some in Canada, some in the U.S., and then we coach people from all over the world. It's really cool.
Nice. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is Tom Evans was he coached by your coach?
Yep. So Scott coaches Tom Evans.
Yeah. So obviously
Ruth Croft and some other bigger names. Yeah.
Oh wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So obviously that's great. I mean, so it's super legit.
Yeah. He's a person I definitely want to continue to learn from.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So there's Jesse, the family man, Jesse, the coach, the nutritionist. Let's talk about you as a runner a little bit, because I'm among the time that my friend Tommy said you got to meet him, you had also just won what I don't recall what it had been renamed to. Snow Peak.
Oh, yeah,
Snow Peak 50 miler. Mm-hmm. That was around June or so of 22, I think, that you won the 50 miler. Mm-hmm. And then Tommy's like, hey, you got to check this guy out. So you're winning races, you're coaching, you kind of got your hands in all of it. I mean, how do you think of yourself? Like, it's an existential question, but kind of who are you? Are you a runner or are you a coach? Like, do you coach to supplement your running habit or do you run to supplement your coaching habit? You know what I mean?
Oh man, that's a good question. I honestly think that I identify less as a runner than a lot of really competitive runners. And to be completely fair, like I'm competitive on a local level, but I'm not really competitive on an international level.
Okay.
I don't know if I identify enough as a runner to get to that. Maybe I have the potential to get there, but if it's off season, I cannot run. Like it's not something that I have to do.
Right.
And I'm always kind of like battling where I'm at with my identity, especially as a runner. And I never ran as a kid. I hated just running. I played all sorts of sports and skied and did like, all the stuff. But it wasn't until I was like 21 that I got into it. My brother like just was really into it and got me out, and he's like, you're keeping up. Like you should maybe try to do something.
So 21 was when you tried it, but did you win Wasatch at 24? Am I off on that?
It was 28.
28.
28.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that makes me feel a little better.
Yeah, I definitely have more experience under my belt, but like getting into it, I did like a trail marathon. It was super casual. I did like a race a year for the first like 5 years. So it wasn't anything serious. And then I was like, you know what? I went to grad school where I got my nutrition degree in Portland. Mm-hmm. And it was all new to me. I was super close to trails, and that's when I was like, all right, maybe I put more time into this. I'm just going to school, working a little bit. I was doing like a smoothie bowl shop kind of thing on the side. Yeah. And so I was kind of like, why not take it a little more seriously? And so from there is when I started doing like 5-6 days a week of training, started to get more serious. And that's probably where like I identified strongest as a runner, just because it was, I didn't have as many things going on, so I could fully, and looking back, life doesn't work that way, but like I wish that like I went to Utah State and I was kind of on my own. Yeah. And I wish I would have, when I was like 22, 23, taken those years and just like, I wasn't doing anything. Like I was just going to school and working a little bit. I still had time. Yeah. But life doesn't work that way. Like I didn't get the bug to really, really try until a little bit later. Okay. Right. And so now I'm 34. I've done a lot of the cool stuff that I've wanted to do. Yeah. There's still cool stuff I do want to do, but I'm also like, I could see myself pulling away, in coaching and just running for fun. The competition and trying to stay competitive is quite a bit of pressure, and it puts pressure on, my wife when I have to train. And it's like, I don't want to just go into it somewhat. I want to try to do my best. And so I train hard.
And when you post on Instagram, like your runs, like you're getting some pretty great vert long before the sun's coming up, it looks like.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of what I have to do. And like, as amazing as that is, and getting that alone time and everything, like, how many more years of that can I do? And I do think that my body is getting stronger, and I'm like adapting to running even better. Yeah. But like even just last year, I just did one race. I just did a 100-miler. I did the Bear. Yeah. Yeah. And so I don't know.
How'd you do at the Bear?
I got third.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was definitely not a race I was going to win. The course record was destroyed. It was
it was last year. Who got it?
Zach Gardner.
Okay.
He's someone you definitely need to look out for. Yeah. He's one of the best Americans right now. So,
really?
Yeah, for sure. He's incredible, and just checking out his training would blow your mind.
Really?
Yeah, he trains more than most pros.
Is he a Utah guy?
He's Provo. Yeah, he's in Provo in Utah. So someone to maybe have on your radar. I had a little interview with him myself. It was fun. Really? But so yeah, to answer your question, I identify definitely as a runner still. Being a runner later in life, it's probably a little different than people who grew up with it, which from what I've heard, I actually think it could be a healthier relationship. A lot of people who grow up with running, it can be like a little bit of burnout and feeling forced to do it. And I think because I kind of picked it up later in life, it's still pretty fresh to me and fun to me, and like all the nuances I'm learning. So I definitely identify as a runner. Coaching has become, it's almost like running is still there, fading out a little bit, and coaching is increasing and nutrition is increasing. I'm taking those more seriously. Yeah. but it doesn't hurt to be running too and practicing what I preach.
Totally.
So I feel like if I quit running, then like, oh, you're a coach that doesn't run.
Right.
You're a running nutritionist that doesn't run anymore.
I mean, one of the things that helped sell me beyond just enjoying our conversations together was you're out there getting great results.
Yeah.
Like, that helps the family business.
It does. Yeah. So it's like, if I just get up and quit, so there's kind of almost a little bit of a pressure that is, sometimes it feels a little forced, but then there's also like so many things I still want to do.
Yeah.
And try,
Well, Rob Carr didn't really hit my radar because I was just getting into ultra running, but Rob Carr was like 42 when he won Western States. So you've still got 6 more years to get there. You'll get there. No, so if you look back, I look back at all your races, was there a time where you were like, my trajectory is to be a runner. I'm going to be a runner. Because you got second at Wasatch. Then you went back at 2017, I think.
Yeah.
2018, you went back and won. Mm-hmm. And I believe Trevor Fuchs was in the mix on both of those.
Yeah, very much so.
So, you're getting great results at hard races. And you may call them local, but as we were talking before we started rolling, this is, I think, the best market, among the best markets for trail runners in the country. So they're local races, but it's Trevor Fuchs is who you're running against. I mean, these are great runners. Mm-hmm. So was there a point where you ever thought, I'm going to keep going? Then you hit the crossroads. Was it the family? You're like, I'd rather have a family life, or I like the stability of coaching. Were you ever on that trajectory where you said, yes, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and get sponsors?
I did have some sponsors. It did become something that I wanted to continue to get better at, but the sponsorships kind of jaded me a little bit from the whole experience. It kind of made me not want to continue down that route because it kind of inflated, and I'll just be totally transparent. It kind of like inflated my ego that like, oh, I deserve more. I'm starting to get free stuff. Now maybe I should start getting paid. Like I'm working hard towards this, but like, I wasn't getting significantly better, but I had these expectations of like, oh, I think I can go pro. I think I want to do it. But quite frankly, I just wasn't putting in enough work to become what nowadays is pro, right? Pro is becoming more and more. The standard is just ridiculous now. Yeah. So it was a cool experience to be sponsored and be considered a, amateur runner where I'm getting free stuff, but not paid.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that, but it also kind of messed with me and where I'm at. And I kind of like being on my own now and just kind of doing races I want to do. It takes off the pressure a little bit.
Yeah.
So, of course there's part of my identity to be like, oh, that's still a really cool thing to do. Like just talking offline, like Salt Lake is loaded with pro runners. And it's like Anthony Costales. Yeah. He's 34, just got on with Nike, And so it's like, I'm not good enough. And it's kind of frustrating because I feel like I've kind of been on that brink for a bit. Yeah. But I'm now to the realization where like I don't think I would like running if I put more into it. Like I think there's a limit of like training that I want to do. Returns. And it's just and diminishing returns. And so last year I'm realizing I can handle a lot of volume. But I can't do that 8 months of the year. Yeah. Like my lifestyle just doesn't allow me to do that. Yeah. So there's a lot of barriers there, but I think it would be a cool life, but I'm totally okay not going down that route.
I think it's interesting. Camille Herron has been talking lately about she never runs more. Her long run, she's quit the long run. She only runs as much as 2 hours. What I can't tell, because she's a little hard to read, what I can't tell is, will she run 2 hours multiple times a day, or is she really maxing out her longest run at 2 hours and then going and crushing, Spartathlon or whatever it's called in Greece? Like, do you know anything about that approach?
I don't. I did see a quick little caption about that and didn't get into the article, but it's so personal. There are some people that thrive off of lower volume. They really do. Yeah. Like, the majority of people, the more volume, the better, if they're not getting injured. Yeah. But there's some people where there's a sweet spot where like less is more. Yeah. Like it depends on the person. Some people can get away with less and be pro. Yeah. Like that's just.
Yeah. For me, less is definitely less. So here's what I like about you. And this is where I think we start to push in the direction of the late race survival. When you offer advice, and I think it goes in line also with your take on your personal sponsorships a little bit, is you're a no hype sort of person with nutrition, like with your Instagram. Like if you can get it at Trader Joe's or if you can get it, Kroger brand, like you're pushing those things. So you can give this great nutritional advice that's like $1. And I mean this as a compliment, it's not very sexy either. It's like, hey, you could just buy these grains and these greens and you can eat this, and you'll post the price sometimes like, hey, this meal was $5. And it's like, I'm full. And I think that feels to me like your approach to running also is that like you're in it for like the practical, like realness of it. And then when it gets into all of the fluff and the hype, it's like, you're about running and you're about nutrition. Like it feels like in a real and pure sort of way.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it comes off in, all of our personal conversations that we've had, but also on your Instagram. I just so appreciate it as someone who will never be on any podium unless it's me chasing my kids up on one, that you're giving advice for people like me. And you can train, I don't know who all is on your roster, but I know you could train elite athletes, but I just love how accessible it is. But in that, where you become inaccessible to me is like your FKT attempt. Did you get the FKT on, was it Millwood?
Yeah, I was able to grab that.
Okay,
one.
And so that's where we deviate again. So we align when it's like, $5 for that meal. Tell us about Millwood and tell us a little bit about that FKT so people can have context on that.
Yeah, Millwood is a special thing. It's Mill Creek Canyon, Big and Little Cottonwood Canyon, all connected through 100 miles.
100 miles and how much gain?
36,000.
Yeah.
So comparable, some would argue harder than Hard Rock.
Yeah.
And it is your own adventure. Like FKTs are super fun because it's your own thing. And going back to the hype, like there's no buckle, there's no aid stations. Like I really like the feel to that kind of thing. And that was my first real long attempt of an FKT.
Yeah.
And I decided to do the first 50 kind of on my own. I left drop bags. And then by 50 on, I was with friends and family helping me out. But it's hard, but I still think that's my favorite thing that I've done. Yeah,
and so that is perfectly aligned with the intro I just gave into that, where it's like you're in it for the running, like you love that. Maybe it's a grit, it's a purity. From my observation, it feels like it's just a pure love of it. But on that one also, it'd be really easy to quit. It'd be, and so even just looking at the FKT, looking at Wasatch, your Run Rabbit efforts, how do you keep going like this? So now counsel me, how do you do it? Like, do you have moments in that FKT attempt that you recall, like, okay, when I see my wife again, I'm hopping in the car, or does that ever even cross your mind?
Oh man, these are great questions. So first off, I have DNF'd.
Okay.
I've DNF'd twice. I've DNF'd
well, let's start
twice.
there. Which ones?
So it's Snow Peak now. It was previously Squaw Peak.
Yeah. I changed it, I think. But
yeah. So I've DNF'd there.
What a hard race, though. That's a legit.
And that was just dumb. I did a trail marathon 2 weeks before, and so I just and a guy who did the marathon with me also blew up and DNF'd, I believe, in that race.
Yeah.
And then Beaverhead 100K.
Okay.
So that's in Idaho.
Okay.
Border Idaho, Montana. And I think I made that one halfway. There was a crew issue, but neither of those were like I was dying.
Okay.
Like the DNF thing, I feel like it's okay to DNF. Like it's okay. People go through it and you learn a lot from I think you learn more from DNFs than you do finishing.
Yes.
I really do.
My love of life and learning so much has come through DNFs.
Yeah.
So I do echo and 100% agree with that, even though I would rather have finished them.
For sure.
But I love those lessons.
They give you good lessons. So anyway, I have had that happen, and they weren't like, I wasn't throwing up like crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't have these crazy things happening. It was logistical issues, planning issues, and I just didn't have it in me, and I just stopped. So I've DNF'd twice. And then going back to finishing these races, especially ultras and hundreds, like segments. Segments is the best advice I could give. Like, you're not thinking of 100 miles. You're thinking of the next aid station. Like, how many miles till the next one? Okay, I just need to make it to the next one. And even with Millwood, I just need to make it to my next drop bag. Oh my gosh, 50 miles is coming up. Blaine, my buddy's going to meet up with me, and he's going to pace me. So I get to see somebody. I'm super excited to see somebody. Mile 62 of Millwood, my family's at Solitude. I get to see my family. They're going to pump me up.
Yeah.
Mile 80, this guy has sacrificed his night to meet up with me and pace me. I can't bail on him. He's already stayed up. He's going to meet me. He's going to pace me through the night. Like, I can't do this to him.
Yeah.
He's already committed.
Yeah.
80 to 100, I'm pretty much there.
Right.
Now I just, people are going to meet me at the end, and I just need to push through. My sister's going to meet me at mile 88. She's been super excited to do this with me. I want to share this experience with her. I don't want to miss out on this experience with her. I'm going to make it to my sister. So you're you're splitting it up into segments. Like, what is going to excite you about that next spot?
Yeah.
Is it going to are you going to see your family? Are you going to be ready for your pacer? And having a pacer that you already know and have history with is huge, because you're just like, I'm so excited to see that person. I'm so excited to eat some food at the aid station.
Yeah.
And as you probably know, like, the morale boost of aid stations and seeing people and these kind of things just give you that extra to get to the next place. Yeah. So I'm never like, man, I've got 95 miles left. I mean, trust me, the little evil voice does come in sometimes. It's like, do you realize how much time you still have to go?
So do you feel, I mean, you're able, when you're going for the win, like, you know, in Wasatch, are you still thinking segments?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yep. I'm still thinking just make it to the next aid station, and like, I'll look at my watch and be like, hey, how much can you fit in for this next till this hour ends?
Yeah.
You know, like, how much farther are you going to go till this hour ends?
Yeah.
And I think going into it where, it is almost decided that you're not going to not finish. It's almost pretty much decided, but obviously things happen. And that's why sometimes, like, racing too much and you're just exhausted can cause you to DNF too. You need the mental capacity to be like, I'm tough enough right now. I'm physically and mentally tough enough to go into this effort.
Yeah.
That the thought of quitting is just not there, you know? So once you start messing with that idea of quitting, which a lot of times that still does come up with me, even though you're kind of like decided not to, you'll still have those thoughts.
Yeah.
Just try not to entertain them and just be like, it's just to the next point, you know? And what's your why? Why do I need to DNF? Well, if you're not having fun, that's like everyone else.
Yeah,
like,
no one's having fun.
No one's having fun.
That's not why we're here, to be honest. Yeah.
How's your stomach? Are you getting to the point where there's an injury going on that could set you back for a year? Yeah,
that's one of always my questions is like, okay, before the race, I try and like put myself in the mindset of, hey, when I'm not feeling well, how do I determine when my brain's not working that great? Is this a temporary thing, or if I keep going, it's going to be long-term? That one always messes with me, even though most of the time it's a short-term thing. But then I start to like, you know, I have little discipline in my mind that late in the race. Like, all of the things that keeps my mind disciplined are all gone. And so then I just follow it to the worst of like, oh my God, if I keep running, my kids are going to grow up without a dad, you know? Yeah. So I feel like that's one of the challenges is to do damage control or triaging your own pain and being smart about it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And being smart about your pace, being smart about your nutrition, all those things are big time strategy that you need to have dialed. And nutrition, I want to emphasize.
Yeah. Because
if you're not getting calories, you know, glucose takes up 30% of the calories you eat. So your brain is super calorie intensive. It needs a lot of calories to function properly.
Yeah.
If you're falling behind on your nutrition, especially in the later parts of 100, your brain's just going to tell you to quit. Like, food is what's going to drive your brain. And a lot of people, which is totally normal, that's just how we are. It's hard to eat for 100 miles.
Yeah.
No matter what product it is. I'm working on it myself. I've gotten a lot better, helping people get there too.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect science. Like it's
Yeah.
hard. So one of the things I would advise to you is like, are you getting food every hour?
Yeah,
because if your brain is starting to lack food, no matter how hard you train, that's going to increase the volume of that voice more and more. Like, I need to quit. Like your brain, when it doesn't have energy and nutrition, it's just going to tell you to quit.
Absolutely.
More and more. And then you're already battling your body.
Yeah.
And your body also needs those calories. Your body's tired, your mind's tired, and you're pretty much convinced that you can't finish.
Yes.
But it's amazing what some glucose can do to your system.
Interesting.
You get calories into your brain and your muscles, and everything can change. Especially if you're behind and you're able to catch up, you're a new person. So that's where my passion for this stuff has come, because I've seen it
clearly. Yeah.
My first race my first ultra, I was 100th place. Speed Goat 50K, I placed 100th.
No judgment. That's a great result.
For me, it was like a total blow up.
Yeah,
like things
that's a hard race.
It is a hard race, but like I thought I had my nutrition dialed. I had a huge salad the night before, which was so dumb. And I had this complete blow up. My stomach just died on me.
Interesting.
So I was determined to finish. Anyway, that's what kind of turned into this cascade of like, okay, I want to study like how to do this.
Nice.
How do you get through a race? And like, luckily that was the worst performance I'd have. And I hadn't gone back to that, because I started really figuring it out. The next year it was 25th place at Speed Go. I dialed in my nutrition, helped my training. So those two, and putting those two together, is so interesting to me, and still so new in the science world that I really talk to people a lot who have this urge and have some history of DNFs. Like, what's your nutrition like? Like, what's your training? Like, if you're doing 20 miles a week and you're doing 100 too, that's like, it's a lot for your body. Yeah. And then practicing the nutrition too. If those pieces are, if you're setting yourself up and practicing those things and strategizing beforehand, it'll set you up better. But anyway, that's a tangent there.
No, man, that's actually some of the best advice. I think, to kind of land the plane here, I think everyone listening should follow you on Instagram for the advice that you give out, or seek you out if you're taking on clients right now and taking on athletes. But, I think for me, one of my struggles is to be externally motivated. Like, I'm internally motivated. And so there's sometimes nothing that someone can say on the outside when I'm in a funk. They can only push me further away. They can't bring me in. Like, if they, get really in my face, it's like I kind of, it's hard to shut down. But I think point being on that, for other runners who are out there that are like me in that, I'm hearing like the nutrition piece, which of course you got to have thousands of calories to get through 100 miles. Like, that's so intuitive. But at the same time, there's been times where it's like, I haven't eaten in 7 hours. I didn't even notice. And so then I will come back with a plan like, oh, this is what I'm going to do every hour. And then it's like, this is disgusting. I don't want, it's not that my stomach is hurt, it's just I don't want to eat anymore.
Yeah, flavor fatigue, yeah.
Yeah. So
and that's the thing, it's not intuitive. Like, at the beginning you can start eating.
Yeah, you would think it would. Yeah.
But then it's like you have to force your brain to say, let's get food.
Yeah.
Like, it's the weirdest thing. It's like your body wants to sabotage itself.
Yes.
Like, it's forcing this food down because you're just starting to get sick of the sweetness. You're starting to get sick of the foods. And we're just like, running and eating is a hard thing for a human to do. Yeah. Like, there's resistance to that. And so training yourself takes years to be able to get on top of like, this is what I need every hour, and like, I'm going to stay on top of this, and to not fall behind when there's so many other things to think about. Yeah. It's a practice, and it takes a lot of time.
I've seen you talk about, variety, how important I mean, it seems again like another no-brainer, but in my brain, I'm like, okay, I just want to have like 2 or 3 things. I need to simplify. So I'm just going to have these 2 or 3 things. By mile 30, I'm like, I don't want any of this anymore. So I can already start to feel I'm in trouble. Aid station food is almost never maybe even if it's what I want, it almost feels like it's never what I need. And so then I get in trouble, because then I have a belly full of Swedish fish. And those are, those serve a purpose, but they're not 70 miles worth of fuel.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
but that's the crazy thing. And sorry to interrupt you. This is just so interesting to me, is like what I'm learning about elites, and I really like to study what elites do. They can pick one product and not eat anything else, And I'm super
And
curious
sometimes
to
it's
know
liquid. I don't understand
liquid.
getting calories from liquid
Yeah.
for that long.
Yeah. And part of me is like, are these guys just so mentally tough that flavor fatigue that we all suffer from just doesn't affect these people?
Yeah.
Do they have the mental capacity that it doesn't bother them? But what about their stomachs?
Yeah.
Well, my guess is that they just train so much with the same product. But Zach Gardner, he never practices with it and just will do 100 miles. He had the exact same product the whole time. So there's these variabilities in people. Some people might need 10 different products.
Yeah.
Some people can do it with one. I'm certainly not someone who can do it with one. I think the majority of people struggle to have just one.
Yeah.
So the game plan is what I work with people on, and some people can do it. Other people, it's just so individual.
That is interesting to think about the mind of someone who can do it. That it's purely fuel. I mean, it's like what happens from when it goes in their mouth where it gets in their belly. Like that's not a concern of theirs. It's just they need it in there to do its work.
Yeah,
like
the most efficient, and it is the most efficient if you just use.
Because your body knows what to do with that one thing. It gets
highest amount of carbohydrate.
Yeah.
Getting it in as quick as you can, not having to chew, get it in, keep running, perform at your highest level.
Yeah.
And the way they're able to pull that off, I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, Jesse, thanks for joining me. I could talk about this all night and into the day tomorrow. I thank you so much for making the time. I hope that everybody out there follows you. If they're looking for a coach, they find you. You're putting out good content. I see you partner with other accounts too, where you're just pushing out that really practical. And I know the goal isn't to make it like affordable nutrition, but your sort of ethos is, like I said a few times, like let's just find what works. And there's some stuff out there that works that isn't in this bright, sexy package, and you can get it from this aisle and combine it with that aisle. I think it's super practical, super useful for my audience. So thanks for sharing it with us.
Of course.
All right, man.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
See ya.
Thanks.